Hello, everybody. Michael here from Adfluential. I've got Jed here. We've released a few videos with just me talking on and on about kind of how we manage campaigns with regards to getting feedback from data and expectations from our clients and what they can do to help us, basically make them money. The other day, I had a really cool message, and genuinely flattered, probably more so than any other point in my career, from Curtis Taylor and his business partner over at Lucky Leads. Lucky Leads, for you guys that don't know, is a pretty kind of new and small aspiring marketing company to bright guys out of Belfast in Northern Ireland. They asked me for a phone call and just so to impart some advice and talk about some experiences and give them, a learning experience. And I thought that, after talking with Jed here about, the industry and just how combative and how many walls are put up and how difficult it even is to get right, that like if these guys have, the desire and frankly the stones to pull out of nowhere, message someone who's technically a competitive industry and want some honest questions and get some honest answers to those honest questions, I thought, hell, I'd be remiss if I didn't get on the phone with them. And a lot of their conversation was about client management, about what we do with our data. And it was really striking to me during this conversation how little of it was actually based around the campaign and the marketing side of this business. And all throughout the conversation, from a desk 4 feet away from me, I kept having to ask questions to get answers. And it struck me that one of the big things, about Adfluential and really, just the last, 7-8 years of my career is that the person handling the day-to-day and really getting their hands dirty and working with our clients to make those relationships and to build that, campaign integrity I talked about is Jed. So I thought it might be cool to get in, with Jed and kind of rehash that conversation a little bit and just kind of turn the mic over to Jed and let him talk about some of those questions, some of those answers, and give you guys all an idea of what we're about and hopefully, entertain a little bit, give a little bit of information and try to bring together a little bit of a fractious industry. So Jed, I'll turn over to you, introduce yourself, and off you go.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm Jed. I'm the sales director here at Adfluential. I've been working with Matt and Michael within the past 8 years of my professional career, and within that, starting off as an account manager initially for my second job, and then building up to head of sales in our previous business. And at Adfluential now, obviously, from a day-to-day perspective, as Michael touched on, I look after the whole operational side of the accounts, the distribution of leads, the client management, the invoicing, the lead feedback, and generally everything that's required to make sure that we have a steady flow of leads each day, and our buyers are happy and performing, which is the key. So I guess one of the key things which was really insightful today was the guys we spoke to and had a great call with. They really didn't understand how, first of all, to get their foot in the door with partners, but also they actually didn't really quite understand how to manage a partner once they're on board. And they certainly raised some issues to us that we've seen many times over the past few years, especially around campaign performance after that initial trial and taking that trial to the next step into becoming a solid partner of theirs as well.
So let's go back to square one and talk about the process of just finding people.
Yeah.
I think one of the hardest things to do in this industry is go through, just find who the right people are. I mean, God, we've been doing biz dev and account management for the majority of our careers. And whilst, neither of us are old, we're sure as hell not young. Some of us a bit older than others. But still, to this day, like, whenever you get stuck, it's really easy to get stuck in just finding who to talk to. So, walk us through kind of just real basic steps. Like, what's your typical process when you want to go find people in a new vertical?
Yes, a good call, actually. The number one we always look at is LinkedIn straight away. So if we look at a market, let's say solar in the UK, for example, my initial outreach is to look at the company, straight away I'll get an idea of how many employees are there. That will give you a good idea of the sort of scale and operation they might have. And so from that, I'll start to search people that are likely going to be handling the leads first of all, but also perhaps generating leads their end as well, and also some of the more senior staff. So with that, I'll search on Google. I'll look at some companies who might be in a certain area. So I'd look for Solar UK, for example. With that, I'll go to LinkedIn. Often the LinkedIn link is at the bottom of their page, so it helps you straight to find the company and their presence.
Well, let's use, like, for a specific example, let's go back to kind of where we came from in this industry and talk about specifically the UK life insurance market.
Okay, interesting.
So,
Yep.
like, walk us through your step by step of, if I come to you and go, all right, our target is we want to be selling 500 life insurance leads a day over the next 6 months. Find me the biggest buyer who can start taking a big chunk of that. What are you doing?
Well, first things first, Google. I'll go straight onto Google, search life insurance broker or life insurance advertiser, and I'll then find out who's actually. First of all, you'll find them on who's actually running PPC, so you'll know there's going to be some clients who are probably of a bigger scale. But then work your way down the list and find some companies that are promoting life insurance as their business. From that, I'll then go into LinkedIn, and with LinkedIn, I'll then search that company. I'll look at the staff there, try and find the people that are likely to be handling leads. And then some of the key parts of LinkedIn is looking at the associations with that. So I can then say, right, I'm going to connect with this person who is the marketing manager, or they might be the sales director.
So I think just for ease, let's use specifics. Biggest boy in the UK life insurance industry is Reassured.
Yes.
For anybody over in the States, it's looking Reassured to have like 700-800 people, of which a very high percentage of them are selling.
Yep.
They're turning over tens of millions of dollars a year in revenue on just new policies written. Undisputed king of this industry. So, in a company in previous life we've worked with,
Yep.
loads. So you go on life insurance, you're searching, you find Reassured, you see that they seem to have a big presence. You
Yep.
go on LinkedIn, you go Reassured, so many people are there. You find 800 people,
Yeah.
getting all tingly and everything. What do you do now?
Well, first things first is to find a selection of people that are likely that you would want, that would be dealing with you in a company of that scale. So I'd be searching for terms like sales director or lead acquisition manager or marketing manager, or some of the senior members there as well. So you want to be going to some of the C-level executives within the company. What I'd then do is send them a connection request. And if
Are you writing a message with a connection request? Or you just
good call.
You just blind connect.
Yeah, actually, I've tested that through previous roles. I've tested running just connecting and then searching who I've connected with, and sending a message on connection. My personal preference is not to send a message on the initial connection request. I find that it's too easy as a fob off, and they can look at it and go, oh, they're just trying to sell me something and not really going to be that interested.
Gotcha. So lead gen's Tinder and not Bumble. Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying?
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, you lose at the first hurdle on that one. So yeah, but once they've connected, then I'll go in with a message. Now, you and I have worked for a long time on messaging on LinkedIn, on not being too long, not being too short, but just getting across the right message. And actually something that we learned about when we were in Budapest of that best approach in the US market, where it's different, is to get something across the line that is effectively like, hi there, thanks for connecting. We're a lead generation business specializing in life insurance. We'd be really keen to chat about working together.
Yeah, massive shout out to Kerry Hartman for that one as well.
Yeah.
She gave a hell of a presentation out in Budapest.
Yep.
So don't be cheap. Go to Affiliate World, spend whatever you need to in order to get access to it. If you didn't go, watch it. There were a number of presentations, including hers, that are definitely worthwhile if you're in this industry.
Yeah. Well, exactly that. And that means a really short, concise message is going to go a long way. If you send a really waffly message, or if you put a PDF in there or a link, often that message will come up, and the link and the PDF will take up the entire message. So when they open it, they just see a link to something and go, no. So the key with that really is to get that short message in and follow up. Now, obviously, there's This is all about pipeline, and it's all about as many people as you can connect with it, and as many messages as you can get out. So with that, once I've done those connection requests from the initial outset with Reassured, I would then look at the companies who were associated to them. There might be companies like ProtectLine, who are also one of the biggest in the market and were a great partner of ours for many, many years. And I'll do the same process again. So it's a sort of rinse and repeat process. Mm-hmm. Now, what a lot of people will try and do is just connect with people and see where it goes. Really, if you're looking to try and sort of scale that and try and get a real true pipeline in, you will need to start adding in details into a CRM system. Something simple like FLG is a really simple system we used for a long time. And with that, you can do it on Google Sheets as well. It doesn't have to be something really advanced, especially if you're a small business and trying to get into the industry. But just making a log, just putting in there, Reassured, Sales Director, John Doe. And with that, who you've connected with, and you can sort of build your pipeline. And
so keep organized.
Yeah.
The big thing here is if you're prospecting correctly and you're talking to tons of people, you need to keep yourself organized. Because if you don't, you'll either find yourself rehashing or not messaging enough.
Or you'll find that with that rehashing, you also then start to lose a bit of belief.
Yeah.
And whereas if you have a process and a structure in there that you can go, right, I've spoken to them, connected with them, they've not connected. It means at some point something's going to crack, and you won't lose that momentum.
Well, and something else that came up in the talk with the Lucky Leads guys was, they brought up, hey, that's all well and good. You guys are going direct. You guys have a background. You have a history. There's a body of work that you guys can demonstrate. What the hell do we do? Because we don't have any of that. So, let's look at that from a different angle. Yeah. And, let's look at what Adfluential did in November, December of last year as we started to build our UK solar proposition, which to be frank is all the great stuff that we're doing, the growth and everything was funded by that initially, because we were able to grow that pretty big, and we were able to do that despite the fact that we had no name recognition. And not only that, we didn't know anybody within the solar home service industry in the UK. So, talk through that a little bit. Give some insights onto how we did that without an industry like UK Life that we're well known in.
Yeah, good call. With that, initially, it was totally new to us. I actually reverse engineered that from the marketing perspective and looked into what people are running, what adverts are running, what we're seeing, what marketing messages are, to understand the sort of companies and how they handle it. From there, you can then build out an idea of a client that you want to work with and what these clients are like. And therefore, we did the same process that we explained with LinkedIn, rinse and repeat, find the right people, get the right message across. But then also we did start to look at some calling. Now, calling historically has always been one of our keys that's always been a big success for us. And again, a lot of people don't like to cold call. We don't really see it as cold calling as such. We're phoning up and just requesting if we can have a chat. Okay, you're going to find the guard dog, but in that process, that's exactly what we did. Who
wants to work with a marketing company that's afraid to market themselves? Yeah. That's a big one. Yeah. If you're not willing to pick up the phone and talk about how great you are at what you do, it's pretty tough for you to convince someone that you're the right person to promote their product or their service.
Yeah, very interesting point. Yeah, but yeah, then with that process, we started to work with some partners that we knew already in the industry. We had some relationships with people that we've worked with at the old company. But also we gave us some good insight, and so we initially started to launch with them.
So when you talk about them, going back to Budapest again, you're talking about the whole New Money Worldwide concept.
Well, New Money Worldwide, Vic Valor, you're my boy, and the cell phone millionaire himself.
Look, I gotta be honest. I met Vic afterwards, and the guy is absolutely fucking legit. I also thought when I saw the subject of the talk, he was absolutely full of shit. And then I heard the talk, and I was like, damn, he's got a hell of a point. And really, really brought home that if you can market, or you can, you can kind of do the very front end basics of this industry, but you don't have the ability, or for that matter, the resource to actually go out and do what we do and get our own clients and talk to the people and account manage and the umpteen other things that take up a huge chunk of time and a big percentage of our operation. Like, I was just saying, going to these parties. So, talk about, again, talk about what we did with regards to that. We're in an industry like solar. We don't know anybody.
Yeah.
Nobody knows us. Like, we might know, like, a mate of your brother's who's installed solar on a roof, but that ain't getting us anywhere in the industry. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, we very quickly started to see some of the partners that we've known. We looked at the campaign. We looked at what the CPLs were likely to be. We built out a creative around that and our ads and creative and journey, sorry. And we started to send leads via partners who already have very good established relationships with the direct installers who we were looking to target. So that initially gives us that element of we can run on a national basis, which is a real key for us when launching. So with those partners, we could get the leads delivered into the right places. We also could start getting feedback back to us, which enabled us to understand realistically what we actually need to see as a performance metric to then use in our position and our pitching to new partners.
So what you're saying is, in a new industry, when you've got no body of work, you got to find some way to create that body of work.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're going back to our pitching and trying to sell yourself as a marketing company. If you have no idea of what your performance stats are, you're going to get called out pretty quick, and you need to understand really what even just something simple like the initial contact rate is, or as we very quickly learned, most people purely base their KPIs on appointment booked. Now, we're very used to straight up sales and straight up conversion rate, so that was new to us initially. And that really helped us to understand what metrics we need to be focusing on and actually getting some metrics back without putting the huge amount of work in it takes to get clients on board initially. We actually had that opportunity to start from the outset. And that's really what the networks opened us up to.
Cool. And we did. We started via certain networks in the UK to get our feet. And it's never been our MO. If anyone's ever watched any videos I've ever put on LinkedIn, you know it's never been our MO, and it's definitely not our desire to do that. We like controlling the journey. When I say the journey, I don't mean customer journey online. I mean our journey. So, we talked to Curtis and the guys over at Lucky Leads, specifically about controlling your data, controlling your content, controlling your clients, and actually being able to choose to build your business your way. And it's not always easy, and there is a place for using third parties and aggregation, especially so you can build that body of work. And in certain times, as we're finding in certain products in the U.S., you work with a company like Kistera, and actually the product they're offering is very good. Yep. It works for everybody. The management's good, and you don't really need to look at that bit of operation and go, well, how do we bring that internal? Because quite frankly, they're augmenting your resource ability by actually having a very well-controlled proposition in auto insurance in the U.S.
Yep.
that now we don't have to try to find allocation for inside our own internal resource pool. Pivoting a little bit, right? You made comments about feedback.
Yes.
And don't go too far into the granular of the feedback because it's boring. And it's kind of a little bit cliche, and everyone talks about doing and what they do, but specifically for guys that are entering the industry that are new to account management, okay? And whether that account is dealing with one of the networks or whether that account is a direct buyer, whenever you get bad news, they're not happy with something.
Yeah.
Okay? What are you doing?
Well, first things first, we need line-by-line feedback. We don't want overall stats of a conversion rate that is 5% and that's it.
So specifically line-by-line feedback
Yep.
is a list of every lead
Yeah.
that we've generated for you with some identifying details within our system. It's a lead ID number, and we can track that back to everything in the system. And what we need from the client is their status.
Yeah.
And preferably stuff like value and everything if you
Yeah,
really
yeah.
want to get good. But basic level, we need a status attached to that lead ID.
Yeah, exactly that. And this is for any product we run. Having that breakdown line by line means that you get a much better overall data perspective of what's happening. You can break it down by area then, you can break it down by demographic, you can break it down to every single individual campaign you're running. And with that, you can build a really good picture of what the performance actually is. And then you can start to optimize based on that. Now, one of the key things is that most people will panic, and it's certainly something that the guys brought up to us today. They got a client back, they got a response saying it's not working, none of the leads are working, and we were like, well, don't panic. Ultimately, if you trial 10 leads, you're never really going to understand what the actual true performance is, and that kind of is a commitment issue from the client, right? So you need the client to go, look, with 10 leads, they're expecting 3 conversions on this particular life insurance campaign, for example. It's very unlikely that they're going to see that straight away.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do, it's a miracle. And really, you're probably going to know it's going to drop down or it's going to increase massively after that. It depends purely on the actual source of the lead and the marketing campaigns you're running. So when it comes to the feedback that we get, we use that to be on the front foot. And we always ask people, can we have this feedback as much as we possibly can? Because for us, that means we can always be one step ahead. We can look at, we know, for example, in the north, campaigns might perform better compared to the south. Therefore, we can budget our marketing and spend where we want to spend to maximize our buyers' performance. And that really is the key. Don't panic, get the feedback in, and use that feedback to your advantage and show them where the positives are and where the negatives might be.
All right, so you have a client come on, they're taking like 10 leads a day, you get a phone call every lead.
Yep.
How do you deal with that?
Well, that's an opportunity for you to understand their business. Now, they're going to be very worried about every single lead, which shows that they might not be working the leads as efficiently as they can. They were so focused on every individual lead, they don't see everything as an opportunity. So I will say to them, look, you need to average this over a period of time. We know in the industry, in solar, for example, a good conversion rate and a conversion rate that we know brings good ROI for clients is anything north of 1.5%. Now, anything more than that, we know that their return on investment is strong. So when we say that to clients in the same industry, when we understand what that true cost per acquisition value is, we can then go, right, the next 10 leads you have is bringing you closer to that 1.5% conversion rate. So over a 10 lead basis, it's actually highly unlikely you're going to close a lead fast, and you're starting to build pipeline. And from a management perspective with us, we cannot internally manage a client with lead by lead and every single lead because we want to scale.
Well, I think one of the things as well that you've become very good at is calming everything down. Like, there's nothing that moves fast in this industry. And if stuff in this industry is moving fast, someone's screwing something up somewhere.
Yeah.
So the first thing that you need to do is calm everything down. Like, put everything in perspective. You know, you said, industry A, 1.5% conversion rate. You've taken 10 leads. So you can't do 0.15 of a sale.
Yep.
So you've made a commitment to invest, Mr. Client or Mrs. Client. And right now we're 10% into that trial. You don't have a deal yet. You don't have enough data to create any sort of trend.
Yep.
So relax, calm down. You worked with us for a reason. It's because you believe we know what we're doing. We haven't forgotten the ability to market. And we absolutely care about how you convert and what your return is. So everything needs to calm down so that we can do our job, which is give you the best opportunity you guys can to do theirs.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's absolutely the message that we try to convey, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Ultimately, it's massively purely in our interest for our clients to make money on our leads. And therefore, to do that, we need them to show commitment with us and us commitment with them. And with that, we can really start to build a partnership. Now, one thing we've learned massively over the years is you never want a relationship with a client to be transactional in that way. And as you're touching on being calm, well, rapport is absolutely important. You know, if you're working with a client and every single lead is being mentioned that this was the outcome, this was the outcome, this was the outcome, you can't get through that barrier and you don't have a strong partnership with your client. Whereas if you actually understand their business and you actually understand more about them and their willingness to commit, it means that you can start to look at it and go, right, let's slow this down. Let's look into the fundamentals here of what the actual performance is. Now, we know you want to target this cost per acquisition. Therefore, we need to be focusing on that, not necessarily every single lead and whether it's converted or not. Because ultimately, as a term that you and I use a lot is spending through the pain. Now, we're spending through the pain is a term we use when we launch any new campaign. And we know initially we're going to lose money. Everyone knows that. And you've got to spend through that pain and not worry. And unfortunately, we have to make that the same for our buyers, which is difficult when a lot of them are positioned that they think they're going to get immediate wins. And it's not always the way.
Yeah, there's a huge feeling out process. Anytime there's a new, just not even a new campaign, but a new buyer. Like the nuances and everything in and around what everyone does, and with all these moving parts in that chain, like very rarely is the first batch of leads going to be insanely successful unless their operation mirrors exactly what your other clients' operations are.
Yeah.
Now, the one area, if you're new to this industry, that we were talking with the guys at Lucky about, where that isn't quite as important, is on that network side. And going back to Vic Vallo's old talk in Budapest, it was, one thing that working through a network will do outside of giving you access to more volume and scale right away is whilst they will not give you the in-depth data very often that really you could really use to drill in, they will, however, give you a very standardized set of data that you can start to make extrapolations from and that you can center your operation around. So by creating that scale opportunity, because the resource level that it takes to generate 150, 200 leads a day worth of orders is a lot higher for the average small digital marketing or affiliate marketing company than it is for a network whose entire existence is predicated around being a sales operation. And that's where, I think, Vic's talk was really good. And it's very clear the guy's absolutely killing it right now. So, who am I to disagree? But leverage, if you're new in this industry, leverage the people on the commercial side of it that have experience and that work in that specialty as well as you can for as long as you need to in order to learn that side of the game. I think that's a major piece of advice that we gave to Curtis today, and that we would say to anybody who's just starting out. Like, don't ever do anything because of ego, especially when it comes to anything surrounding clients. Anytime that gets involved, you end up shooting yourself in the foot. That even includes sometimes not dealing with clients one-on-one and working through a network. Now, fast forward at 6-9 months, you now have a body of work, you now have credibility, you go out, you talk to these buyers directly, you start bringing them on one by one, you've got feedback coming in, everything's great, and then bam, smack right in the face, this week's been terrible, what have you done, and fix it.
Yep.
What do you do?
Yeah. Unfortunately, these circumstances happen, and you'll be thinking everything's rosy, and you'll be having a great week, and campaigns are looking good, the performance you think looks good, and there's a massive drop, and the client panics. Now, that's a very natural thing for them. There's a lot of pressures in a business, and some of the guys that you manage as your client is likely to not probably be one of the most senior in the company. So they're under pressure and they panic. So we, in that scenario, will go, right, let's look in the data. We will crunch this down. Where are you seeing issues? Are there any changes to the circumstances of how you're handling the leads? Are there too many leads coming in? Are there not enough leads coming in? Is there outside factors like Black Friday, or it's a really sunny week in England, which is very rare. And when that happens, everyone tends to go and sit in their garden.
Did they have a huge induction? Have they brought in a bunch of new sales staff?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That's a big one.
So all of these factors, a lot of them panic and they blame you, but actually they are happy to look internally as well. And not saying that's always the case, but this is about working together and understanding the business. So with that, we can look back into the data and go, right, okay, we sent you X amount of leads on Monday, X amount of leads on Tuesday, but maybe they were too flooded with leads and didn't work them correctly, or actually we've been targeting one area so hard on where they want to focus that it might not actually be working for them now. So deep diving into the data in a way that you can break it down and deliver to them something to go, right, don't panic, we've seen this trend. Let's look at last year's performance. Now, obviously, as Michael said, we're only just getting to that year running solo in the UK, for example, but you can understand trends. And one of the outside factors right now, which we didn't kind of, even though you're American, you knew, but I didn't really consider how much of an effect the election's actually going to have. Now,
Yeah, worldwide.
Worldwide. Straight away this week we were like, whoa, we've seen a bit of a slowdown here. Are people on Facebook seeing the same? Are they really engaged with what's happening with the election? Are they not as likely to be listening to wanting to chat on the phone? Are they what? There's so many different factors, and you have to bring everything into one and go, right.
Yeah, like this time of year is as part and parcel, and I don't mean this politically, of why the United States needs some freaking campaign finance reform, because I'm goddamn tired of seeing any sort of competition from things to do with politics at this point. So if there's one thing I can implore, the United States government to do, it is pass something so that you can just stop getting in the way of commerce and stop making people's life who are trying to contribute to the economy more difficult by pushing the same messages over and over again. Sorry, Kerry.
Yeah. One of the key things, and especially for anyone starting out, and we've learned a lot of people always ask us, like, how do you have such strong relationships? How do you build these relationships? How can you just call clients you haven't even worked for years and just phone them and say, like, what's happening in the industry? Getting in front of clients is absolutely imperative. And with that,
it's a simple Skype call, guys.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be just a call or email thread. Get them on the phone, get chatting, understand a bit, build that rapport, because it really helps to break through the barriers of scenarios where clients are panicking and saying it's not performing. If they know you and they can trust you, it's going to really, really help when managing partnerships. And that's something we're always doing. We're always keen on. Any time of the day, we'll take a call. We'll actively put calls in clients' diaries. We'll make sure that we've got forms of communication with everyone we can. That ultimately means when we need situations to grow with them, first of all, and understand what they're seeing across the board, but also in scenarios where they might be panicking and as a small business you're thinking, I'm going to lose this client. Having the rapport is absolutely imperative.
Yeah, and I think a little bit of that goes down to dedication. And you're on LinkedIn, you see all everyone talking about these completely insane things like work-life balance and all that. Like, it's cool, man. Do what you got to do. But like when you look at our industry and you look at the people out in the periphery or that are stuck in that are really killing it, you've got guys, like Troutman and Mean doing all of their compliance and legal work, and all Stodolac and Connection Holdings and everybody else who's running around literally the world, going to all of these conferences to find the right affiliates to work with, the right buyers to work with, the right clients that that they can get in and work with, and building their businesses. Like this ain't a 9-to-5 gig. Dealing with clients especially is not a 9-to-5 gig. And all the stuff like Jed and I have talked about, on this or other videos, is all true, but at the end of the day, that accessibility to the client has always been important.
Yep.
Accessibility not only in their ability to talk with you whenever they need you, but accessibility to understand the way that you think and how you're going to solve their problems, and even accessibility insofar as they believe that they have the ability to affect the way that you behave. So if you've got a big client on a large campaign and their results start dropping, they have to believe, and you need to put into effect as well, by the way, that you will actually affect changes based on the real data that you're getting from them to make them better. It's not all about grabbing a rip. It's not all about getting a profit. Sometimes it's about taking one for the team to keep the relationship going and strong. And I cannot stress that enough. There's a shitload of money in marketing. We all know that. Lots of us benefit from it, and not pretending otherwise. But the one thing that everyone needs to remember, but very few people do, is there are times in this game that whenever you're going to deal with clients directly and you're not going to work through networks, you have to take a hit. Yep. You have to do something that's good for somebody else and not just yourself. And if that screws your ROI for X period of time, well, that is what it is, because on a daily basis, we transact tens of thousands of dollars. On a monthly basis, we transact hundreds or millions of dollars. And on an annual basis, we transact tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars for the real big boys. Don't let this, for the sake of those $1,000 transactions, screw your ability to, over time, earn tens of millions. It's the biggest piece of advice, I think, outside of the way you manage data, that I would give to anybody entering this industry. This is about the long game, and if you can play the long game in a short-sighted industry, you have won already.
Yeah, and to add to that, I mean, it always goes down to the situation of being with the clients, understanding the business, and knowing what they are making from the leads you're sending.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, if you have no idea how their business is operating and how they're servicing the leads and what their revenue is off the back of it, how are you to know that actually your leads are actually doing well at all, or they're not just satisfying you?
Well, thank you everybody for your time. Thank you for watching the video. Just remember, when it comes to Adfluential, our content, our leads, your profits. It's not just a bullshit catchphrase. It is actually how we run this business. If you like this, are interested by this, want to see more, want to understand more, please do me a favor. Either comment, like, follow, subscribe, or if it's on LinkedIn, connect with me. We'd love to have the conversations. We are always open for business. Have a great one. I'll catch you later.